Hello there, my name is Tim Walter. I'm a house healer and an alternative life coach, and welcome to this week's Monday Moments. This is the little program at the beginning of the week where I try to answer some of the questions that you've left in the comment section beneath some of the videos on my channel. Now this week I'm looking at a couple of questions from Lena Husham and Benjamin plus 10 Lisa. So hello to you two. Thank you very much for the questions. Lena's question really is about this video that I put up online at the end of last week, where I was showing you 3 different house healing plans. And what I was saying about those plans was that the owners had already started to do some work by protecting, with intent, protecting themselves, putting protection in place, and they were affecting the subtle energies around them. Now, Lena's question is, surely, where's it gone? Okay, so why did the sacred sign bend the earth energy line? Isn't earth energy a good thing? Why didn't it bend the red line? Okay, so that's really 2 good points. And Benjamin plus 10 Lisa basically said, I had the same question about moving earth energy line. What's the benefit that would be? So bear in mind that I'm doing healing work effectively. So what I'm actually looking for and what is being shown on each of those 3 floor plans is detrimental energy. Everything on those floor plans is actually shown to be is detrimental for the house owners, those that live in the house. There are many more things that would have shown up had we been looking for the positive things. In fact, I'd still be there now. It would take forever if you were trying to plot every single positive aspect of a space. All we're looking for when we're doing house healing work is the detrimental stuff, so that we can rebalance it. We ask upstairs to rebalance it. Now, so I keep banging on about earth energy and get you guys to look for the most positive and beneficial, the strongest earth energy power center in your house. So as you two quite rightly say, Lena and Lisa, why was it showing up as a detrimental energy line? Well, quite simply because we as human individuals all vibrate at different levels. Okay, so when you go into a space, you take any set space. Let's take, for example, a sacred stone circle that was built thousands of years ago. It would appear that these, sacred sites were working and manipulating earth energy. Okay, that appears to be part of their reason. And what we have always found is that as a person walks into a sacred stone circle, sometimes there are little spaces within that circle where actually it can make you feel quite sick. You can feel, oh, it really hits you in the gut. That is an example of a detrimental aspect to earth energy, because it's not pleasant. It's like saying, well, surely all the energies within a human being, or all the emotions that a human being displays throughout the course of a day, are positive. Are they positive? No, well, they're not, are they? Because if you think about some frustrations or anger, for example, anger is a perfectly valid emotion, but very often it's not actually beneficial. It's not what we would call, a good energy, whereas love would be a good energy, a positive, life-affirming energy. So we can see by that respect that, anger is a detrimental energy, let's say, and when we look at earth energy, not all of earth energy is going to be positive and life-affirming all the time. The point is that it can be changed, So we work with the management. Part of us, part of our reality, means that we can manipulate and adjust that energy to be positive and life-affirming. So when we look at that earth energy line that's bent by Lord Metatron's symbol, it would appear that it was detrimental to the house owner, which is why it showed up in the dowsing. And what was being shown to us there was that actually a symbol such as Lord Metatron's cube, representing that cube with that symbol, is strong enough, powerful enough, as we would expect, to actually adjust the detrimental effects of that energy line. So so as I said in that first video that I put up last week, it's the intention that's gone in to create that sacred symbol in the first place. Now, I'm going to probably come back to Lord Metatron in another Monday Moments soon, because I want to do a little bit of research into him. I'm not completely across all of the archangels, and I believe that he actually is responsible for acquisition of knowledge and wisdom to a certain extent. As I said, he's more that kind of archangel than somebody specific archangel such as Archangel Michael, who is there as a protector, and Archangel Michael, is always called upon for big time heavy protection in the Christian faith and other faiths that have archangels as part of their structure. So I want to look a bit more about Lord Metatron, and also I'm going to ask a question of the owner of that a particular symbol of that house. What was that structure that the symbol was on? Because as somebody pointed out, sorry I haven't got your name here in front of me today, but somebody asked the question, was it orgonite? Was the actual symbol, what it was embedded in, written on, was it orgonite? Because obviously orgonite has a quite an interesting protective effect anyway. So I'm going to find out a bit more about that and come back to you guys, okay? So the other part of the question from Lena was, why didn't it bend the red line? Well, sort of answered that already, really, because all those different things that I'm looking for, the toxic lines, man-made disturbance lines, earth energy lines, water flows, they're all different vibrations that we're tuning into. They're different things, okay? So if we think about the water line, obviously dowsing, tuning into where the water flow is, that's a very different thing I'm tuning into than an earth energy line. Now, granted, earth energy lines, toxic lines, disturbance lines, and some of the other stuff that we look for when we're doing house healing, they're all kind of invisible energies, but they are of a different type. So an earth energy line is a naturally created line, we believe. Probably, everything is part of the electromagnetic field, but it's probably part of the electrical system of the earth itself, but it's generated through the earth, and whatever interaction is causing these intensive lines to appear to be dowsable. Whereas the toxic line and the man-made disturbance lines, they're more similar to what we would call psi lines, PSI, so psi lines. That's sort of to do with psychosometric, energy of the mind. Sometimes we look for shamanic lines. These are lines that shamans have worked with. They're more similar to ley lines, which are again invisible, but they're kind of straight alignments across a landscape. Spirit lines is something else we look for. So all of these different things which are intangible, but they're dowsable. And this is part of the reason that when I'm talking about dowsing, it's really, really, really important to try and do as much dowsing as you can, to get as much practice as you can, so that you get to rely upon your results, you get confident with your results, and then you can start to differentiate between the things that you're picking up. Now, when I'm dowsing, sometimes I get shown stuff by the management, because I consider the dowsing to be revealing information that the management is showing me. Sometimes I get shown things which I don't expect to come up in one particular section heading. When I'm going through my 45 section headings, I might be looking at a toxic line, and actually I get shown something which is not truly what I would expect to see in a toxic line category. Right now I'm getting a bit complicated here, but I'm saying this because dowsing, as you would have realised, is not a strict, refined structure. None of this stuff is refined and can be quantified in the same way that we can quantify with precise measurement things in science. When we're using these intuitive capabilities that we all have, the lines are pretty blurred, it's a bit fuzzy, and what we actually really, really rely on to differentiate between pure guesswork and perhaps some focused intuition, some accessed knowledge that comes through that we can work with to work in healing, is to be as accurate as we can be. But the management, put up with us, put up with our vagaries and our less than accurate kind of ability to connect in, and so they will present the information when they get the chance. So if I'm sitting for an hour doing dowsing for an hour or 2 hours and tuning in and focusing in, then I'm going to go through peaks and troughs of being focused and concentrated and having a better connection during that time than I am at others. If they can slip in a bit of information when I'm actually in focus and in tune, even if I'm off a subject heading, then they'll do that. That's the way that I work, that's the way they work with me. And again, all of this stuff is about learning to understand your own subjective, intuitive responses to the world around you and the inner world as well. It's not scientific. And again, we're not throwing the logic and the science out of the question. We're not saying, no, we ignore this, we don't pay any attention to that. We're not saying that at all. What we're trying to do is to actually balance the things, balance our logical mind and our illogical mind. Because actually this illogic nature of the intuition actually gives us quite a freedom in what we do and how we relate to things. And particularly, either if you're a highly sensitive person, then you'll be very familiar with some of these feelings, but also if you're a creative person, if you're a writer or an artist or a painter, a sculptor, or somebody that works with the land, a landscape, a designer, a landscape designer, or even just a very keen gardener, you will pick up on these intuitive natural responses. And the human intuitive natural response is not a specific yes, no, black, white, right? Now, I think I've answered your question and gone on at a complete tangent, but basically just bear in mind, why didn't it bend the red line? It didn't bend the red line, it bent the green line in that third example because it was actually showing us something. It was showing us that the earth energy will respond to these sacred symbols. It shows us that this symbol is sacred because it's in the human consciousness. And if you remember, if you look back on some of the other older videos, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about earth energy is that it's our pathway. It's the mechanism for us to create reality. It holds this sort of human management information in it. That's what earth energy is overall, right? So it's really interesting that Metatron, the Metatron cube, is the example that they've used for us to learn from on this occasion. And it didn't bend the toxic line because it's of a completely different frequency. What it's showing us is the frequency of earth energy. Likewise, if you remember on the second floor plan, the lady that lived in that house, she'd been effective at diverting the 2 red lines, but she hadn't diverted the other lines because I would suggest that she was more tuned in to the frequency of those 2 red lines, right? So she was aware that she was doing something with some kind of energy that she didn't like. She was worked with it in ceremony, sorted them out, but she hadn't gone through and looked at other stuff. And originally, with the very first one, the guy was basically trying to sort out his sleep. He was getting very poor sleep at that particular house, and he was aware that there was something there. He doused it. There was something negative there, detrimental, shall we say? And he'd asked the management to adjust it, and they had. So he'd done a good job. It's just that he hadn't been as experienced enough and learnt enough about all of this stuff to say, okay, well, there's that one, let's see what else there is that's affecting my sleep. So really, when he called me in, that's what we looked at. Now, in all fairness, for him, I'm still working with him. The house healing is not take a pill and it all changes. It's about pulling this subtle energy out through, and actually it's as much about the interaction that I have with the client after we've got these plans, and we talk through things, because talking through is pulling that information out into the physical realm. Okay, I've gone on enough. So I hope that has made some sense. I'm really aware that I tend to kind of go off on these tangents, but I hope it's helped answer your questions. Obviously, if it gives you more questions, then just drop a comment in the section below, and please do leave a comment anyway. I'd like to know if I'm making sense, and in fact, if what do you want to know about? I've got broad things that I want to talk about, and I want to talk next at the end of the week a bit more about the way that we use this intention and how we focus our intention to actually make it work for us in terms of protection and improving life generally, really. Okay, so I'll see you at the end of the week. Take care. Thanks for those questions. Bye bye.